I will fight my cankered country with all the spleen of the under-fiends. But if so be thou darest not this, and that to prove more fortunes thou art tired, then, in a word, I also am longer to live most weary, and present my throat to thee and to thy ancient malice. In this moment, Coriolanus, believe it or not, is in the process of turning a sworn enemy, a man he fought battles against, whom he defeated, turning that man into a friend by offering his life. And there's a little bit before that that makes it so that somehow this crazy offer actually does work and he does become friends with him. Friends. First off, it's the framing. It's how he builds up the conversation, how he goes into it, and how he paces the conversation before it even begins, so that Aufidius is in the mindset and the perspective that he wants him to be, before he shares the common interest, the goals around which they can both align. Otherwise, there'd be no point for Aufidius to trust him, no reason to work with him again, because they're such sworn enemies and they've got this history. And then finally, he puts the cherry on top of the cake when he offers him his life. And obviously you have to be willing. It's like for a good deal, you need to be willing to walk away. Well, in this, he had to be willing to allow Aufidius to kill him. So bear that in mind as we go through all the build-up of this conversation. If he didn't make that offer, then there's a risk that Aufidius might see it as a sort of a situation Coriolanus has engineered. This way, Aufidius it feels like it's his own choice, something consultants will often talk about, or at least they tell me, some of the clients I work with. They'll say that they're always trying to get the client to feel like they've had the idea, because then they'll be more likely to implement it and do it. So Coriolanus gives him that choice, and then he has the opportunity to say no or to go all in with Coriolanus and throw away the past and just say, yes, let's do this. And it works. So let's look at this. Let's go to the beginning. And I just want to bring in this one line that happens right before he approaches Aufidius' house in the city. So he's just arrived in the city. He's in disguise. And he says, "A goodly city is this Antium. City, 'tis I," he's talking to the city now. "City, 'tis I that made thy widows. Many an heir of these fair edifices for my wars have I heard groan and drop. Then know me not, lest that thy wives with spits and boys with stones in puny battle slay me." He's saying, "'Tis I that made thy widows, it's me that killed your husbands. Many an heir of these fair edifices, these beautiful buildings, for my wars have I heard groan and drop." He's killed the heirs of this inheritance, the people who would stand to look after the city for the generations to come. He's killed them, the sons, the husbands in battle. "And then know me not, lest that their wives with spits and boys with stones in puny battle slay me." So if people knew, the wives and the boys would crowd around him and kill him, this great warrior, and there'd be nothing he could do about it because he's in their city. So he's already aware of the danger, and knowing full well that his life is under threat, he's decided to take the risk to go in anyway and try and make this outlandish, crazy offer to his sworn enemy. And when Aufidius sees him, he has a little scuffle with the servants because they think he's just like this hobo. And they're like, "Why are you dressed so poorly?" And "No, we won't let you see our master." And finally he beats one of them up, and then they go and get Aufidius. And Aufidius comes in. "Whence comest thou? What wouldst thou? Thy name, why speakst thou not? Speak, man, what's thy name?" He hasn't even told them his name at this point. And that is part of the framing. If he just said, "Oh, Coriolanus is outside," then he's already going to react. There's no way Aufidius would not react in such a way that he'd come out ready to kill him already. So he kept that bit back. And so this is part of his strategy, the framing unfolding now. And he says to him, "If, Tullus, not yet thou knowest me, And seeing me, dost not think me for the man I am? Necessity commands me name myself. Didn't tell him his name yet. He just said that, well, I guess if you can't tell who I am by seeing me, then I'm going to have to tell you my name, aren't I? And Aufidius is like, what is thy name? A name unmusical to the Volscians' ears, and harsh in sound to thine. He's testing him now, and he's sort of, you could call this pacing, he's future pacing. So he's telling him, you're not going to like this. You're probably not going to like this. You're really going to hate this, actually. It's unmusical to your ears. It's going to be quite harsh when you hear it. You're not going to like it. And he says, say, what's thy name? Thou hast a grim appearance, and thy face bears a command in't. Though thy tackle's worn, your clothes look kind of bedraggled, thou showest a noble vessel. What's thy name? And this is brilliant because Coriolanus knows, just by seeing his face, and maybe it's a little bit of ego in this as well, that he's going to start to question, he's going to start to wonder, and it's going to be impressed upon Aufidius that this is a really important guy that he's speaking to. But he hasn't told him the name yet. He's asked him 3 times now in a row, and he hasn't told him yet. Because he's building up. And in a way, there's this technique, he's anchoring Aufidius. In the book, Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss, he talks about this technique of anchoring. And so something you might do is you go up to the hotel reception and you say, oh, you're going to hate me. I'm really sorry. You're not going to like this at all. And then they go, oh, no. The hotel receptionist has been through so much bonkers stuff behind that desk that when you then say, I'm just another guy looking for a free upgrade, I don't suppose you have any better rooms that you'd be willing to offer me? Then they lift up. Because they just got this anchor of, oh, it's really bad. Whatever's coming at me right now, I'm not going to like it. Oh, no, and they're starting to cringe. And then you come in with this amazing offer of offering to, in this case, in Coriolanus' case, to help him overthrow their lifelong enemies, the greatest threat to his whole tribe's existence. The people who are at the gates of their city. He's going to offer to help him overthrow them. But first he's coming in like, oh, you're not going to like this. Oh, so it's anchoring Aufidius. Coriolanus, this is a great line, you could use this one. Prepare thy brow to frown, know'st thou me yet? I know thee not, thy name. My name is Caius Marcius, who hath done to thee particularly and to all the Volsces great hurt and mischief. There to witness may my surname, Coriolanus. Coriolanus means victory, by the way. So he's saying that because of the victories I won over you, the Romans, they actually named me victorious. Caius Marcius Victorious, Coriolanus. Because of what I did to you. And here we're getting into the acknowledgement. And this is part of the framing. Whenever you're having to have a difficult conversation where you know that there's some bad blood on that person's side, really, really good tactic to acknowledge it first. So that, because otherwise they're going to be sitting there going, with this kind of pressure inside, like they're wanting to, you did this, you did that, you did this. Like, so he's going to say that for him, so he doesn't have to say it. And actually, he doesn't even give Aufidius a chance to speak, but by the end of this speech that he gives him, Aufidius is decided. Just off of that. There's no conversation. There's no, but you did this, but you did that. No. It's all done and resolved in the breadth of this speech. And that's why this speech is so powerful. The painful service, the extreme dangers, and the drops of blood shed for my thankless country are requited but with that surname. So I took all these war injuries fighting you, and all I got was the name Victorious, Coriolanus. That's all I got for all my efforts. And now here he's starting to lean into the shared goals, because as we're going to find out, his people banished him from the city because he was so arrogant and other things. They were afraid of him. So they banished him from the city, And he saved them. He defeated the enemies of all seas. He got them great fortunes and all this stuff. And what was his thanks? They called him victorious. There you go, there's that name. And you get nothing else. Goodbye, you're banished. And basically said, up yours to Coriolanus. And so that's why he's here. So he's finished with his framing. And now he's building trust. He's giving Aufidius a reason to trust him. And it's almost like a confession, this part. So he gets into it. But with that surname, a good memory. The surname is a good memory. And witness of the malice and displeasure which thou shouldst bear me. So the fact that I'm called Coriolanus is part of the reason why you should hate me so much, because I'm only called that because of what I did to you. So he keeps going back to this point. He keeps hampering on this. And then it's a weave. So there's these little threads, but there's a weave that's moving in another direction as he gets towards what he really wants. Which thou shouldst bear me. Only that name remains. The cruelty and envy of the people, committed by our dastard nobles, who have all forsook me, hath devoured the rest. So all the other benefits I could have got, they've been devoured by the nobles siding with the people, encouraging them even to turn against me. So now, this is where Aufidius' ears might start to perk up a bit, and he starts to go, oh, so you're not with them anymore. Okay, all right. And maybe he's already guessing where this is going. But Coriolanus, he's got a little more to get to before he lands there with the heavy, with the decision that he's going to offer him. Hath devoured the rest, and suffered me by the voice of slaves to be whooped out of Rome. Now this extremity hath brought me to thy hearth, not out of hope. He's saying, but don't get me wrong. So he's still keeping a little dignity. He's like, no, don't get it confused. I don't want you to forgive me. That's not what this is about. I want you to work with me. And that's the sort of power of this. It's so kind of surprising to Aufidius, right? Well, this whole thing is one big surprise. He's just there having a feast, actually. So they're partying with his boys, having a few drinks, and then his worst enemy comes in and says, here's my throat, kill me, but before you do, why don't we work together? But he frames it a little more cunningly. He says, now this extremity hath brought me to thy hearth, not out of hope. Mistake me not to save my life, for if I had feared death, of all the men in the world, I would have voided thee. Maybe a little compliment in there as well, like a sort of backhanded compliment of saying, like, you would be the one person I would, like, fear death from. But in mere spite, to be full quit of those banishes, stand I before thee here. So out of spite for the people who banish me, that's why I'm here. Not to ask for forgiveness from you. If I was afraid of being killed by you, I just wouldn't come here. But I come here because I want my revenge on them. Then if thou hast a heart of wreak in thee, that wilt revenge thine own particular wrongs, and stop those maims of shame seen through thy country, speed thee straight, and make my misery serve thy turn. Then if thou hast a heart of wreak, so if you feel the revenge as well, if you want revenge for all the stuff we did to you, and you want to stop all this, the maims, the pillaging and stuff we've got going on throughout your land, then speed thee straight, and make my misery serve thy turn. Then let's do this. Let's go together. That's his offer. And then he's going to go to the cherry on top. But how could you use this in your own life? So the modern parallel you could draw would be something like this story of, you can find this in Napoleon Hill's lectures on the Mastermind. There's a whole 10-hour lecture, and if you listen to that, at some point he's got this story about this factory owner. The factory was going to close. They were bankrupt. They were in financial troubles, and he couldn't actually pay the employees for this week's wages. And so he said to them, full acknowledgement, and this is the framing. He said, I I'm really sorry, I can't actually pay you for this week's wages. The company, we're going bust. And so obviously now, and again, that's like that sort of anchor, but it drags everyone down. And then when that positive comes in, they're much more likely to take it. Then he says, but I remember a time when this company was going really strong. How can we get back to those days when everyone was fully invested? Because I think now the heart has gone out of this place. And you, the workers, and us, the executives, it's all the same. We're not putting our heart into it anymore. So here's my offer. We can close our doors right now, and then he comes in with the extreme offer. We can close our doors right now, and it's a loss to him as well. And that's why the people are going to trust him more. And we'll shut down the business, and you won't have anywhere to work anymore, and neither will I have a company. Or you could keep working for as long as you can, maybe another week or two, where you're not being paid until the company gets back into profit, and I promise we'll pay you all back with interest. I'm going to leave the room now and give you some time to think about it, and let me know your answer tomorrow. And he goes off, has lunch. By the time he comes back, employees have gone home and they've collected their savings, and they've come in and they've arranged a whole packet of savings to keep the company going. And they say, we're going to do it. We're going to go all in, heart and soul. And here's some money as well to help go even further. And we're going to see if we can't turn this around. And that's where he gives them the choice. Then they can put their full heart and soul behind it. And that's really if you can take one thing away from this, it's about giving people a choice to be with you or not. Back to the script here. So, I stand before thee here. Then if thou hast... so to use thy vengeful services may prove as benefit to thee. For I will fight against my cankered country with the spleen of all the underfiends. But if so be thou darest not this and that to prove more fortunes thou art tired, he's kind of saying here, but if you're too tired to win and you don't want to seek more fortunes, then in a word, I also am longer to live most weary. I can't be arsed living either. So you may as well just go ahead and slit my throat and present my throat to thee and to thy ancient malice, which not to cut would show thee but a fool. So he's actually saying here, like, if you don't kill me right now, if you don't cut my throat right now, you're a fool. And everyone will see it, unless you just cut my throat and kill me because you're too tired to go off and win things. And you're too, cowardly, you wouldn't dare to try it. Or we could work together. And then we could actually overthrow your enemy, who's now my enemy. And so you see how he sort of arranges the factors and variables, and even in this last little bit as he's rounding off, he's sort of saying, here you go, you can do whatever you want to me. But you might not want to because these are the reasons. Longer, thou art tired, in a word, present an ancient malice, which not to cut would show thee but a fool. Since I have ever followed thee with hate, drawn turns of blood out of thy country's breast, and cannot live but to thy shame, unless it be to do thee service. And that's what he finishes with, right there. So he gives him total freedom to kill him, and there's this weird sort of paradox of having no fear and total clarity about it, but then also wanting so much to side with him and go and get his revenge. And in a way, he sort of claims the moral dominance here, where he's sort of laying the decision at Aufidius' feet and saying, like, and this is the beauty of it, is that there's no lies. And I said cunning earlier, and I thought that's the wrong word, because he's not really being cunning. He's just being straight up and honest. And he's recognizing that they now want the same thing. And he knows his enemy, and he knows that he'll probably go for this. Why? Because he would probably go for this. Maybe. So he doesn't need to be dishonest, he doesn't need to be cunning. And that's the beauty of it. And that's something else as well. If you can take something else away from this video, is that it's less about being manipulative and tricky and cunning and strategic and clever. And it's more about just recognizing the state of play, what cards are on the table. And then you have the opportunity, when you're in that bad blood mood, you can say, hey, here's my hand. There it is. We can work together, or you can just win the game without me, but maybe not win as much as you would with me. It's up to you. And when you do that sort of radical honesty, it gives them that opportunity to invest and come towards you, and then the relationship is something strong and that can actually last because of the common interest, the shared goals. And Aufidius, he's totally for this. He says, "Oh, Marcius, Marcius, each word thou hast spoke hath weeded from my heart a root of ancient envy. If Jupiter should from yon cloud speak divine things and say, 'Tis true,' I'd not believe them more than thee. Oh, noble Marcius." He's saying if Jupiter, if God himself came out of the clouds and said, "He's telling the truth, believe him," he wouldn't believe him as much as Coriolanus right now. Trust. Relationships are a structure, a building, a vessel, an environment that is built. The bricks and mortar of a relationship is trust. And in the course of that speech, and you hear that word, "Thou hast spoke hath weeded from my heart." When you're doing this, when you have your boss who's threatening to take your tips away in that waitering job, you can come in with that radical honesty, that shared interest of saying, hey, we both want to increase the revenue here, so we'll get more service charge and you'll get more profit. So here's our common goal aligned. And you know what? I'm willing to let go of my tips. Yeah, you can take away my tips for the next week if this doesn't work. But I'd like to try this, and you propose something like, a certain incentive. Like if we sell 10 bottles of wine, you'll give us £5, or like a glass or something like that for us. Or some other kind of tactic that has the aligned goals, and then you make the radical offer where you say, and you know what? So it's a win-win, so they have nothing to lose from it. You say, if you don't like it, then we can do this. You can do this other thing that won't be as good as if you follow my plan and it works. So it's about creating that win-win situation and making it so there's no loss for the other person. You will lose, but they will gain. But you have to be ready going in, if you're going to try this sort of tactic, to have it go the way that you wouldn't prefer. You'd have to be willing to see that your tips vanish the next week. But first, you're going to make this offer first, with that nice little drip of honey to draw the fly in. And so you set the frame, and then you have the shared alignment, and then you go for that radical offer. And the radical offer is a win-win, and it creates an opportunity for an amazing relationship to be started on this foundation of pure honesty and trust. Give it a go. If you want more videos like this, let me know which plays, which dynamics, which communication tactics and skills you would like to learn, and then post about it in the comments. Thank you so much.